to the BK Q&A. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is the eternal Bumble co-host, Kyle JCRB Kraus.
I'm here. I am here. I'm here. I'm here. Oh, I don't know why I was getting progressively more and more, like, high-pitched during that, but sure, you're welcome. See, I can never come up with a good response or a good answer for any of these things. Again, I'm just here. I don't know what to do.
Well, half the time I'm trying to catch you off guard just to make you laugh and waste people's time as you're cackling into the microphone.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much normal. That's what I do all the time. That's how I roll, you know?
And that's why this show works.
Sure, we'll go with that. If you want to make the bold assumption that it works.
We're still here, aren't we?
somehow it comes together in the end.
And that's mostly thanks to you. What have you been up to, sir?
I wish I could say something really fun and exciting, but not really. I guess I've been messing around with soft modding a PlayStation 2, which I actually did a while ago, but I've been kind of updating it and changing some things around with it recently. So I've been trying to get my older consoles hooked up to my modern TV in a reasonable fashion. I had been using HDMI adapters, whether they're the standalone HDMI cords that you can get on like Amazon and stuff for super cheap, and they're not great. So I'm trying to switch over to an all component setup. It's super nerdy stuff that nobody cares about. So, but it's fun. I like doing it. It's just kind of a pain. So, but that's about it, really. What have you been up to?
Well, I have to admit that the gotchas have got me.
Uh-oh.
I recently upgraded my phone. I've been dragging my heels on it because my old phone worked. Thank you very much. It was just also like 5 or 6 years old.
What were you rocking?
I was using a Galaxy S6.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's not terrible.
Not terrible.
S6 holds up fairly well.
The phone part of the phone worked.
Well, the S6 can still hold its own. It's fine.
It's just, it was starting to show its age, and,
Sure.
you know, things were starting to outpace it, and it's like, well, all right, my provider has a deal on an S10 Plus.
Oh, boy.
It won't really cost me a whole lot to splurge on it. Fine. I'll upgrade. And now Sonic Forces Speed Battle, there we go, that's the correct title.
Yes.
Actually runs
Uh-oh.
properly, which was a bit of a problem because I'd gotten so used to the laggy input because the S6 could barely run it that I had to relearn how to play on something that actually runs at more than 25 frames per second.
Uh-huh.
And Pokemon Masters, where you don't collect the Pokemons, you collect the Pokemans and Womans.
Ah.
I wanted to play that for a bit because I really dug the art style, and it was kind of a fun twist on the whole Poke formula, but the S6 would not run it at all. And lo and behold, the S10 Plus will, so got that one going. And there's still Sonic Dash. I still kind of check in on Animal Crossing Pocket Camp and Fire Emblem Heroes. And then heaven help me, Tales of Crestoria just dropped, which is a gacha game from the Tales of RPG series. It has its own story, but the whole grab is you get to summon characters from across the entire Tales of universe, pantheon, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, there's ways to upgrade and equip and whatnot those characters. So right now, between getting Whisper and maintaining other games and getting into Crestoria and dabbling with Pokemon, it's like, I actually have to stop and like work and eat at some point, right?
Yeah. At least some of these games have timers, but that just means you can switch over to another game for a little while and then come back later. It's just an endless cycle. It just keeps you going.
I'm a little... I might be putting off Masters for a bit just because they announced that they're going to kind of overhaul things a little bit, and I just started to learn how the game worked.
Yeah.
So I'm not really inclined to upgrade characters since they're going to be changing how that's done. But that's okay, because I have Crestoria, which is right there, and about the time I'm about to run out of stamina, it's like, hey, you leveled up. Here's the stamina.
Ka-ching!
Oh, and because you hadn't run out yet, that's going to increase the tab even more. You can keep playing forever and ever and ever.
That's how they get you.
Oh, they got me.
Except they really get you by making you spend money.
Yeah, and joke's on them. I don't spend money.
I know.
I like the slow grind. I like the casual approach. So I'm not really inclined. That being said, when Speed Battle does the end of the month double card bonus purchasable thingy,
yeah,
I'm totally going to do that, because that's going to be literally hundreds of Tangle and Whisper cards.
Yeah. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that thing fill up, and I'm like, I'm gonna be tempted to drop the $10 on this, even though as much as I want to resist, it's like there's
a lot of cards.
It's a lot of cards for them, and they're rare, so you don't get many card drops for them to begin with. It seems like so. Maybe. I guess it'd just be like a one-time thing. Like, okay, that's it. But now Sonic Forces Speed Battle has a promo going on for like $5.99 for Tangle cards, and it's like, no thanks. I'm not going to do that. I will just take the cards I earned. Thank you very much.
If you're listening to the show and you are playing Tales of Crestoria, search for the Bumble Guild. I opened that up because currently the chat function doesn't work properly. If you try to log into the chat normally, it defaults to the world channel, which is so overloaded it automatically craps out. So I created a guild just so I could open it in the guild channel and type a simple message to complete one of the very early requirement missions. But if you're playing Crestoria and you want just a super casual guild, like a guild to join just to say that you've joined a guild, we're there for you. We're not going to be pushing hard for any kind of limits or events or whatever. If you're just playing, come on in. The water's fine.
Sure. I'm still playing the Sonic game, so I'm not installing any more games right now.
That, and you're not a big Tales of fan, so more than half of the draw is being a fan of the series.
I mean, I like it. I just they just take time to play, and I'm like, time? I don't want to spend time. I want to spend time doing other things like sleeping. Also, I didn't even know it existed, so.
Yeah, it just dropped a couple days ago. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's about it for updates and stuff going on in our lives. Are we ready to jump into the Q&A?
We certainly are. If you want your question answered here on the show, you can tweet to us at BumbleKast, email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com, comment on any YouTube video. Yes, any YouTube video down in the comments, preferably one of the newer ones, but, wherever you feel like it.
Yeah, I can see them anywhere.
If you're a patron, you can comment pretty much anywhere on the Patreon page, send us a message, post it somewhere, we'll find it. Or if you're in the Discord, go over to the Q&A channel and ask your question there. If you want your question answered sooner rather than later, you can buy priority by becoming a $5 patron over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, or send us $6 via Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. Make sure to include your name and question there so we know what's going on, because we have people just straight up donate through it, which is really cool, and we appreciate that. If you are planning on asking a question, please, please, please check the FAQ on BumbleKast.com first. Glance at the past couple of episodes where we list the questions there, see if it's already been answered, or if it's going to be something about what would have been in the old Archie books that I will be touching upon in Lost Hedgehog Tales. We're not going to cover it because there's a lot of... We just got tired of answering. Not yet. We'll get to it.
Yep. All right, well, let's jump on into the priority Q&A, starting off with none other than Scruffymatt.
Howdy, Scruffy.
Hey, Ian, I have a question for you regarding the Space Colony arc. I've always been a bit confused about Professor Gerald's revenge plan, and I was wondering if you could clear something up for me. Do you know if his plan where the arc crashes into the Earth was automatically activated by Eggman once he inserted the 7th Chaos Emerald into the Eclipse Cannon? Or was it a failsafe that was triggered when Sonic used the fake Chaos Emerald to destroy the cannon? Did the scene of Sonic wrecking the Eclipse Cannon at the end of Sonic Adventure 2's hero story even canonically happen, considering that the Eclipse Cannon was later used to destroy the Black Comet in Shadow the Hedgehog?
Don't take this answer as the word of God. This is just as far as I've been able to decipher, because SA2's story is notorious for the fact that it was, I believe, written by an English team, given to the Japanese team, and then localized off of the Japanese team's version of the script. So the thing is a mess. I mean, I love it. It's campy as all get out, but it is not the best presented story, especially since Western audiences didn't get half of it. We had to wait for the Japanese stuff to trickle out. Anyway, from the best I can understand, in the hero story, Sonic does manage to stop the Eclipse Cannon from firing by using the fake Chaos Emerald. But Eggman, at the same time, attempts to power it up with the full set, which is what activates Gerald's final Death Doom project. That's why Shadow was out there trying to get all the emeralds in the first place, was to activate that plan, for lack of a better term. Whether or not Shadow knew that was ultimately what the plan would be, I don't know. He just knew, grab the emeralds, get into the Ark, revenge for Maria, wahahaha. Oh, wait, that wasn't what my memories were. Crap. Now, the issue of the cannon blowing up is just the fact that it's sloppy storytelling. Keep in mind that the moon is also restored by Shadow the Hedgehog. Yes, there's the explanation of, it just turned around so you can't see that side. And I will begrudgingly say, yes, that works. But I have seen a lot of fans attempt to make sense of the various incongruous story elements across the games. And bless your hearts, some of what you've done makes some sense. But knowing what I know and having seen what I've seen, it was not maintained. It's an actual plot hole, and that's how it goes.
Oh boy. All right, next one comes from AfroLuffyX. BumbleKast question. In Volume 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen, the writer did a volume bonus giving character theme songs from famous singers and bands like Asian Kung Fu Generation. So I was wondering, what type of theme songs from famous singers and bands would you give to Tangle and Whisper? For Tangle, I picked Itsuka Doko by Kuchiroro, and for Whisper, I picked Island in the Sun by Weezer. Now, you're free to listen to the songs and give your opinion on my choices, but I'm curious, what songs would you pick for them?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest. I am not the best versed when it comes to music in general. I don't really follow a ton of bands. I'm not really up to date on what is the hip music the kids are listening to these days, or last generation, or the century before. I did give a listen to your suggestions, and didn't particularly sit for me. Itsuka Doko felt too slow and repetitive in my mind for Tangle, and Island in the Sun, unless there's a deeper context I'm missing, just seemed too happy and lazy for Whisper. I don't have a good suggestion otherwise, except for very broad terms. Tangle, I would imagine, would be some kind of very happy, peppy ska piece. Just something that you tap your foot to whether you like ska or not. I mean, something that you're finding yourself enjoying. And even if you're a person who hates ska, you're like, darn it, I don't want to enjoy this. Why am I enjoying this? Stop smiling. That kind of just infectious, fun, high-tempo thing. For Whisper, I would think of something more somber. Not necessarily melancholy, but something that would be maybe just purely instrumental. Something that reflects the fact that she has been through trauma, but has persevered and has the strong will to continue onward. She's certainly in a better place now than she was at the beginning when we first met her, but she's not really the laid-back type. She's always very aware, and I would say not necessarily pessimistic, but certainly on guard a lot more than most of Sonic's friends.
Right. Yeah, I wish I had some good suggestions too, but I kind of didn't have a chance to after seeing this question come up with anything. So, you know, but I would agree with your thoughts there, Ian. That definitely do seem to be more of a need something more happy and peppy, kind of fast paced for Tangle, and something a bit more somber for Whisper. It makes more sense.
Now,
But
I'm painting in very, very broad strokes.
sure.
I would even go so far as to say ska over J-pop. Just because, and this is, again, gigantic strokes, roller brush strokes. But J-pop has a way of being a little too candy sweet, even if the subject matter is horribly depressing like it is half the time. I mean, something, whereas ska is, and I know ska too can have more somber messages mixed into the completely incongruous sound. But I just feel like ska in particular has that more kind of peppy bass to it that isn't quite as saccharine necessarily.
Sure.
I'm sure someone who has a better understanding of both genres or music in general could shoot that argument down completely and tell me why I'm wrong. And please do so in the comments. But that's just what I perceive from my end.
Yeah. Ska or pop punk, they kind of cut from similar cloths. So,
and now that these characters are not only in the hands of the readers, but are starting to get into the hands of the game players, my say doesn't necessarily mean much. So if you feel like that Itsuka Doko fits Tangle, then cool. I'm glad you found a song, and I hope you enjoy it. Same with Island in the Sun for Whisper. If those work in your mind for those characters, I'm not one to tell you wrong. It's just that it's not my personal preference.
All right. Next question comes from Andrew D. How does the process differ between being the sole writer for the comic and taking a backseat while another writer takes over with your input? How much of the story are you told about? And how does it affect you coming back as a sole writer, assuming we'll see you writing on the book again?
I don't have a ton of experience in these scenarios. Most of the time when I'm writing something and there's another contributing writer or writers, the distinction is very clear. Like with the My Little Pony Transformers crossover that's coming out, which is still a hilarious concept, and I am very happy I got to contribute. All the writers, as far as I know, were given the premise, and we each pitched our individual ideas, and then the editors picked the ones that they liked best, and if there was any kind of conflicting elements, we ironed out those through the editors. I didn't interact with any of the writers myself. In the case of Super Duck, Frank Thierry did the outlines and the pitch for the series, and he did his pass over my script once I turned in the rough draft. So I worked with him a little bit back and forth, but it's mostly his show, and I'm just kind of contributing to it. With Sonic, it was a very clean cut off. The end of the Metal Virus Saga is the end of my uninterrupted run, and Evan is picking up with number 33, and then it's her run. And Evan pretty much is on her own with that. She pitched her stories to IDW, she pitched them to Sega, and my input is just so much as I am greedy and a Sonic fan, and I want to see things before anybody else does. Ha ha ha. When we started pitching stuff for the upcoming year, please 2021, be gentle. We're fragile. It was still, I was working under the mindset that this is now Evan's show because she is lead writer for the series right now. So she pitched her stuff first, and then going off of her springboards, I saw opportunities where I could tell a story or two that I wanted to do. And then from there, we kind of just went back and forth like a tennis match, saying, okay, what if we did this here? What if we did that there? Would this work for you? Well, that works for me. How about this? How about that? And then all of this was overseen by the editors who said, all right, let's trim this down. Let's rework this element. These two are not really jiving. Let's rework it this way. Schedules and production change. We have to shift things around like this, and back and forth and back and forth. And we'll see what Sega says about all of that. But for me, when it's like these scenarios, I prefer a clear distinction of who is the lead on the project and where do I fall into it. If I'm lead on the project, I want to know that so that I can, not really worry about stepping on anybody's toes. I can take the initiative. I can be the driving force. If I'm a contributing member, which, the upcoming Sonic stuff is, I don't want to step on Evan's toes. This is her show now. So whatever I do, I want to make sure is in line with her vision for the book going forward. And Evan is super cool to work with, so it was really, really easy to do all that.
Awesome. All right, next one comes from Diane W. Which season do you think The Simpsons should have ended? Season 8, Season 11, Season 13, after the movie, or around the 20s? And do you think voice actors should be cast based on their talent, regardless of who they are?
Oh, wow. First one is easy because I never really watched The Simpsons all that much to Aaliyah's horror. So I really don't have an opinion. I don't know really what season is what. So, I mean, I get references now and then. We've watched a bit of it now that we've got Disney Plus, but I'm not a big enough Simpsons buff to say, oh, yes, well, clearly they jumped the shark in this episode in this season. What? I don't know. I have no opinion. As for the voice actor thing, that's the doozy. In an ideal world, if we were discussing things strictly in a vacuum, ideally, yes, anyone with talent should be able to do anything they want creatively. However, big caveat here, we do not live in an ideal world, and we do not live in a... Backtrack. We don't live in an ideal world, and we have seen that, unfortunately, a lot of folks who are not white men have been given a lot of roles and have been in the position to present a lot of demographics that simply are not represented in the industry. I can see both sides of the Apu debate in that he is probably one of the more well-rounded characters within the franchise, and he is treated no more disrespectfully than anybody else, and that his background as Indian is not necessarily portrayed as a negative aspect of his character. It's kind of lampooned. But at the same time, the folks arguing, well, Groundskeeper Willie is a lampoon of Scottish people. It is, but the Scots have not been marginalized to the same degree that the Indian people have. And I don't want to get into the whole debate over who had a harder history from who and who was more oppressed over the years by the British and blah, 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 blah. But that's not the point. The point is Apu was the representative of Indian culture within The Simpsons for a long time. And through that became a caricature that was received negatively by a lot of Indian people. And that could potentially be rectified a number of ways. Give the voice to an actual person of Indian descent. Introduce other major Indian characters who show up more than just his brother or his wife who show up for the odd episode every few seasons. It's a very thorny topic. It's a lot more than I want to get to on the show or right now, to be honest. But to boil it down, I wish anyone could do what they have the skill for, but it has to be taken within the context of the history of the industry, where it's been and where we are now.
Well, that's a lot more thoughtful answer than I could have put out there. So I would just defer to you. As for when The Simpsons should have ended, I'm kind of like Ian in this regard. I think I've probably watched more Simpsons than you have, but I have no clue which episodes I've seen, what seasons they correspond to. Like, I never watched The Simpsons based on season. I always ended up watching it in syndication, which means they just showed like whatever friggin' episodes they had and in random orders. And they never showed anything season-wise. So I don't know, to be honest with you. Maybe after the movie would have been a good time. But, I mean, I don't know what the show was like during the time the movie came out. I watched the movie and I enjoyed it. It was a good movie, but I don't know what the show was like. So I don't know if that was the time where things started going downhill, things were already downhill, or what. I don't know. So there's a lot of debate on when people think that The Simpsons should have ended, and I'm not really part of that debate because I just don't know which episodes correspond to which, but I do enjoy The Simpsons, and I have a lot of fond memories of it growing up, and it's kind of funny now thinking back on it about how our parents were like, I shouldn't watch The Simpsons, and now it's like the most tamest thing in the world. Even back then, it's fairly tame, honestly. It's not. It kind of. I guess it pushed the envelope for what people were expecting at the time from TV. Mm-hmm. But I mean, after everything that's been going down for the last 20 plus years, things have definitely shifted, and now it's like, well, yeah, it's like, it's fine. It's not really, not really crazy. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. So, whatever you want, wherever you want The Simpsons to have ended, it ended. There you go. Just don't watch anything beyond your favorite endpoint, and you're fine. Imagine that it doesn't exist. Perfect. You're welcome. Glad I could help. It's like Sonic. Wherever it ended for you, that's fine. Have a good time. See you later. All right, next question comes from Koopaling Crew. Congrats on Tangle and Whisper in Dash and Speed Battle.
Thank you.
I was wondering, in the event that the two appear in a mainline Sonic game or a major spin-offs like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games or Sonic Racing, that will likely mean those two will have voice actors for the first time. So my question is, who do you think should, or be a cool fit to, voice Tangle and Whisper? And if you had infinite money and sway to pick any voice talent.
See, again, I'm not really up to date on who all the voice actors are out in the industry. And I guess we're ignoring union options too. So I don't really have a great deal of experience to call from. One of my more favorite voice actors, one of the few that I do know off the top of my head, is Christina V from a myriad of things.
Yeah.
But two that spring to mind are Tales of Berseria and Miraculous Ladybug, which right there shows you the extreme range that she has. And in that regard, she could play either or both probably and get away with it. Tangle needs to be someone who is, constantly upbeat and highly energetic without being obnoxious. And Whisper needs to be someone who can convey a lot with very little.
Yeah.
And I think she could probably do both, but there are numerous talented voice actors out there who could also do it. So if you have any ideas, why don't you say so in the comments? Yes, I'm trying to get the algorithm to play with us. Come on, work with me.
For Whisper, I'm thinking like Ashley Johnson, who's the voice of Ellie from Last of Us and a bunch of other stuff. I think she could do that sort of kind of, the whispery type voice pretty well, just based on her performance as Yasha in Critical Role. I think she could kind of do that. Sort of like this reserved type who then just, is able to unleash when needed. I could see that. As far as Tangle, I'm not sure. There's a lot of options, for voice actresses who are, very upbeat and excitable, who would be good at that. Christina V is one of them who could do that for sure. Yeah, I mean, take your pick, really. Next question comes from Blue Title Gamer. For Ian, say somebody wanted to consider writing for a future career, but they haven't the time or the funds to take a college course in writing. Is it still possible to build up your skills on your own for several years and then put your name out there for possible freelance writing jobs? Or would you personally recommend to save up the funds and take the proper education for it? It's something I've wondered about.
I will say this from my own personal experience. I don't feel like my college education did a lot to prepare me professionally. There were certainly some tips and some experiences that did help, but I feel like I learned more on writing and narrative theory in high school than I ever did in college. College was more of a personal growth experience for me. Academically, it was honestly kind of a waste of the time. Uh, so it really comes down to the individual. Some people need the structured environment, and depending on what college you go to, structure may be in quotation marks, but you might need someone to guide you. You might need the classroom environment and the feedback from a classroom group to help you. Other people don't need that. They're more independent and they are able to discipline themselves and stick to what they need to do to get themselves better. One way or the other, what you need to do is you just need to write and you need to analyze the media that you are consuming in a critical way to understand why it works or doesn't work for you. I've said this a few times in more general suggestions. Honestly, it's one of the reasons I can't really read comics for fun anymore is I can't turn off the professional side and I'm looking at it. I can see the matrix code, Kyle. I can see how it was constructed. I can see where the editor said, "Oh, no, this is a better idea," and it really wasn't. Yeah. I can see how the script might have been going for something and the artist took it in a completely different direction and did not convey what the writer wanted. And I can't just read books anymore. It hurts. It drives me crazy. If I do read one that it's just like, oh, I've lost myself in the work, it's a rare occasion. And I covet those moments. But anyway, it really comes down to you. So look at what you want to do with your writing and look at what you can do in terms of your own discipline and your own practice. And you have to decide from there. If you feel like you're not sure one way or the other, wants the world to stop being on fire, enroll in a community college course. Don't go crazy and splurge on a full private institution first thing, especially in this economy.
Oh, no.
Go for your community college because you're going to get comparable teaching experience depending on where you go. And you'll be able to see if that structure helps or hinders or whatever. But really, it just comes down to practice and trying because, my entire career basically sprung from a lucky break because I just kept trying and trying and trying to get through the door. And I was there when it happened to be open. So just keep at it. Tenacity is one of your best allies in this. Now then, Blue Title Gamer asks you, Kyle.
Oh, boy.
What is your preferred form of video game distribution in these current times out of the physical, digital, and streaming options?
Well, definitely not streaming. I played around with Google Stadia. It was free for a little bit there. Not great. Not impressed. I mean, I was not expecting much. And even then, it didn't surpass my expectations. So, yeah, I do not necessarily care for the streaming model. It doesn't help that the internet infrastructure in America is mediocre at best for most people. And the idea of the negative latency that Google's tried to tout before Stadia launched, that obviously was never going to happen in a million years. And it just, everything about Stadia is just, even like the initial announcement leading up to it was like, So I haven't played with any of the other streaming services. I would hope they're maybe a little better, but I don't hold out much hope just because of the fact that we're so hamstrung by the connections that we have rather than the service. So maybe if I had better service, maybe if everybody had better service, Stadia would perform better. But as it was, I mean, it wasn't quite as bad as I was expecting, but it also just, like, I don't know, just like, I was playing, what was I playing? Oh, it's a new Grid, which is a racing game, which is a game that you really need to be, like, at least fairly responsive. And, I mean, it's playable, but playable is a relative term in this instance. It's like, it's still very laggy and just kind of ugly, too, because of the artifacting from the video rendering, and not the ideal situation to play that game in, especially. So, yeah. Streaming, no. Digital, for the most part, yes. I like digital for PC games, because there's a lot of good sales, a lot of deals, and you can download and install them locally and play them offline for the most part, and it's fine. It's all good. I like that, and you get like super cheap games, even games that are indie games. You get a lot of those. You have the options. There's options everywhere for everything, basically. You got multiple storefronts to choose from. You got no storefronts. You got everything. As far as consoles go for digital, they keep wanting to charge full price for all the games, especially Nintendo. It's like, nah. But then you can get some super cheap stuff on consoles too at this point. So the Switch has some really good options, and occasionally some super good deals from developers who are just desperate to get their game listed on the bestsellers list, which I don't blame them for. It gets them a lot more interest. But I think that exploit is only going to last for so long. It's weird. The Switch store is very weird. The eShop. I'm a little worried that that's not really a viable model that's going to hold up for the extended period of time. But I guess we'll see. And physical is a good option. Physical is a good way to get games cheaper, actually, than digital a lot of the times, because the physical games prices will drop faster than digital will. So if you have the option, if you have the ability to get physical games, and you can get them for less, then hey, go for it. They do frequently drop, so keep an eye out. If you're wanting a game, maybe check the physical version first, especially if it's an older game. And that's a good option. So it's just hard to get your hands on physical games when everything's closed, or you can't go into the store. You got to have it shipped to you or whatever. But there's still options. So I like digital and physical, to be honest with you. But on PC, I'm pretty much all digital at this point. And consoles, I still kind of go between the two. But I don't know. It's like, what am I supposed to? Is this like absolute? Do I need to absolutely pick one of these, Ian? Is this like?
No. It's just your opinion, man.
Okay. My preferred form. I guess digital is probably my preferred, because I prefer playing on PC. So digital is probably my preferred. Anyway.
Today's ad comes from our good friend Daniel H., who is advertising Black Girls Code. This organization seeks to increase the number of women of color in the computer science and technology fields. This, like many areas, is something we need the best and brightest minds for, and something we cannot afford to overlook people on. People that might not normally get a chance. Please visit their website to learn more. That's www.blackgirlscode.com.
Awesome. Check it out. All right. Let's hop into the standard Q&A from starting off with Metal Skulkbane. If you could make a Sonic spin-off based on your own whims and not character popularity or Sega mandates, who would be a star?
Oh, Metal Skulkbane, you know what to say to me. Right off the top of my head, number one, there needs to be a Knuckles Metroidvania.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Like, he explores Angel Island. He's busting up badniks that Eggman has scattered over the place, takes those parts back to Tails, who fashions him like new upgrades, so a longer hover, longer knuckle claws, higher jump mechanics. He finds ancient echidna relics that give him mystic power so that he can sense down collectibles or warp to different areas of the island. And the whole thing is one continuous map, so you can go back through all the old zones and maybe find some new ones. And it's all punching and climbing and gliding. And why do we not have this yet?
Oh, yes.
Number two, we need an R-type styled game for Tails. Give him different models of the tornado. Let him shoot down various flying badniks. Bring back the witch carters and the battle bird armada, for pity's sake. Flying, shooting, it's all Tails is known for. Alternatively, give him a Knights-styled game. Let him fly through various rings and whatnot, and if his stamina runs out, have some light platforming elements so he can recharge, jump back up, and start doing them flying loop-de-loops again. Give him a game. Use the Sonic Forces engine to give Amy her own game. She upgrades her hammer to be a variable Wispon, a la Whisper, so different Wisps give her different hammer abilities. Maybe there's a rocket-powered hammer that lets her spin faster so she can fly. Maybe the blue hammer ability comes back straight to that one. Hover hammer lets her glide certain distances. Lightning hammer that pulls a Thor and shoots a line of lightning down the way. Just give the girl a little bit of love. Shadow the Hedgehog 2. Make it like Sin and Punishment. It's an on-rails shooter. Grab different weapons, or if realistic weapons are not really fitting for Sonic, cough, cough, give him Wispons! We now have projectile weapons that fit within the franchise. Play through the level either with your usual homing attack, or as you progress through the game, unlock different Wispons that allow you to take down different enemies a lot faster, or choose different routes. Have each route necessarily go to a different kind of story, but don't have the endings be so completely different that when you get to the final chapter, none of them even matter. Let's see, what else? I never really played a lot of the Sly Cooper games, but, take that model, give it to Rouge. That's just off the top of my head.
Yeah. Give Rouge a Metal Gear Solid game, but, with the Sonic style.
Yeah, all right, sure, that works too.
Give it a nice spy thriller feel. There you go.
Put Eggman back in his Egg Walker from SA2 and make a whole game about that. If you don't want it to be just a shooting gallery game, give it some base building elements. The better you build your base, the longer it takes for Sonic to get to you. And he's weaker so that when you finally shoot him in the face, it's a lot easier for your boss fight. So many options! Give me a Chow Gotcha, for pity's sake. My phone is ready.
Is that the cream game?
I have an unused document conceptualizing an RTS, World of Warcraft / StarCraft style. I can make this work. Please. Just give me the reins and unlimited funds.
Let's see. We got one suggested here for an Eggman Empire-based real-time strategy game.
Yeah, sure.
That would be pretty cool. Or like
Upgrade
tower
your
defense.
To kidnap more animals with faster efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of freaking ideas you could play with.
Boss mechas deploy on the field. Just so many things you could do.
Yeah. I mean, it would be so awesome. There's so many different options, so many things you could play with. It would be so cool. I'm trying to think of like what could you do as like a Tangle and Whisper game.
Well, that's Sonic Forces. That's what they were based on.
A good point.
Tangle would be more kind of the Sonic-y styled levels with an emphasis on the grapple tail instead of the hook shot. So you're more about mobility and going through fast. Whisper wouldn't be quite as athletic necessarily, but she would be more focused on using the variable Wispon in creative ways and solving level and platforming puzzles.
Sure. That makes sense. There you go. Jeez, I don't know. There's so many ideas. There's so many, and they're just leaving them all on the table. Go figure. Typical Sega. Leave things on the table all the time. They do it everywhere. They keep re-releasing the same handful of games over and over and over when they have a much bigger catalog. They could just be putting out hit after hit after hit of amazing games that they've just had languishing on arcades only for decades. And they just won't do it. They think, we need to re-release Sonic the 50,000th time. Listen, Sonic is a great game, legendary. But come on, Sega, you've got more. You could do more. Please do more. That's why I like the little Sega Astro City arcade thing coming out, because there's actually some games in there that have never been released on a home device before at all. So that's cool. Maybe Sega can keep that up, and we can keep some things going, and we could actually get, like, I don't know, freaking the sequel to Golden Axe finally out of arcades and on a console. Like, just on a console. I know we had Golden Axe 2, but that's not the actual sequel to Golden Axe. That's the console-exclusive version. I'm talking about the arcade version, Revenge of Death Adder. Get that on a home console outside of this little mini box, which because it's going to be on the Astro City arcade thing, but we got to have it. Just release it everywhere. Come on, Sega. Make a whole collection of arcade classics. We need Daytona 2 on consoles. Jeez, there's so many. There's so much. Anyway, this is beyond the scope of the question now. Now I'm just complaining that Sega's just dropping the ball on everything, which is normal. It's what I expect. It's not what I want, but it's what I expect. Anyway, next question comes from Sergeant Bird. You said here that Tangle and Whisper were designed with gameplay functionality in mind, Whisper having a wispon and Tangle having a stretchy tail. If the Freedom Fighters ever came to IDW, would you redesign Sally, Antoine, Bunny, Rotor, and Nicole to each have some clear gameplay functionality like Tangle and Whisper? And if so, what would those be?
We did that with the redesigns with Archie, actually. Part of the influence for those new designs and their abilities was to make them more game-friendly. Sally, with her wrist blades, would basically be a Sonic clone, more or less. Someone who is fast, someone who is nimble, someone who can reasonably tear through badniks. Bunny is super easy. She's basically Gamma's gameplay. Shoot things, hover with feet, no problem.
Stretchy arms. Stretchy arm, I should say one.
Yeah. Antoine, I imagine, would be something like Metal Gear Rising. Lots of very quick swordplay. Lots of razzle-dazzle. And Rotor, I didn't have as clear a notion, but what did we call the move? Drill dive? Or something like that? Where he basically spun through the water like Sonic with the yellow drill ability. Was meant to have him as an aquatic-styled character, since you don't get a lot of those. I guess he could be comparable to Knuckles in the whole swimming and combat angle, but that would lose his mechanics side, so I'm not 100% sure on that. And then Nicole, I would imagine, would be more specifically for platforming in digital-themed stages. Maybe have her be a minigame type thing. Get to a door. Nicole, can you unlock it? Yep, you boot over to Nicole. She runs around, hits some buttons, smashes some digital enemies. Door opens. You go back to the other character. But that we already went that route, more or less.
Alrighty. Next one comes from Godzilla 1989. With the reveal that it was Metal Sonic all along pulling the strings, I feel like if there was someone who wanted to dismantle Metal Sonic, it would be our favorite murder bot, E123 Omega. Wouldn't Metal Sonic, as not only Eggman's main enforcer but also Metal's son, be the ultimate adversary for Omega? The T-1000 to his T-800? The Alien to his Predator? The Jason to his Freddy? If he could reduce Metal Sonic to slag, would he not achieve his glorious quest to prove that he is still all that is bot? Or would Omega have been too enamored with Blaze's fiery pyrotechnics to operate at prime efficiency?
This dances on the very, very edge of fan idea, but it's all based in, canonical stuff. So I'll let it slide, Godzilla. But yes, you are absolutely right. Omega should see Metal Sonic as the pinnacle target. He tears through all the other robots because they are worthless consumer models. Or he might see Metal Sonic as worthy, because he's put out that he was sidelined when he is supposed to be the Superbot. Metal Sonic is pretty much top of the line. He might get a pass, or he might not, because he is absolutely loyal to Eggman, and Omega's not about that at all. So there's a couple of ways you could approach it, and I don't know if we'll ever get that opportunity. Would be nice, though.
That would be nice. I feel like Omega is not explored as a character, and not nearly as well as he could be. I don't know. There's just something there that they could dabble more into, but I don't know. And finally, our last question comes from X-Zone. I once read from Mike Pollock that he only works for Sega a couple of days a year, and that had me thinking, how much of your year is actually writing for Sonic, for IDW, and in comparison to Archie?
We've covered this in some shape or form a few times, but in different contexts. If you take all the hours in the day that I work on a script from each level of production and just put them all together, it's roughly one full day of work. It doesn't take me a full day to conceptualize something. It doesn't take me a full day to write a script. It doesn't take me a full day to do revisions necessarily. So when you combine it all together, I would call it close to like 20 hours, maybe, we'll say, for a issue, start to finish. And so if you had me doing the whole series again, that's, almost 2 weeks of work that I'm paid for. If we're talking about stuff that I just do on the side because I can't stop thinking, then I never stop working. I'm always working because I'm always coming up with something other that I would love to do. See the previous rant about game concepts that I just do to get them out of my system. But in terms of actual paid, dedicated work, we'll say maybe 2 weeks out of a year if you sandwich all the hours together.
Alrighty. And that's the Q&A. And that's this episode of the BumbleKast.
Before we move on, we're going to give a big thank you to all the people who make this show possible. So thank you to Daniel H., Salute Your Cat, Alex P., Connell T., Marcus A., Alex M., John D., Sony, Blue Title Gamer, Coupling Crew, Andrew D., Scruffymatt, Chris A., John B., Diane W., James K., Jennifer R., Torchbound, Jennifer H., Lisa M., Owen B., Preston M., Yami M., Final Neil, Justin S., Silly String, Takaro, Lee H.K., Overthinking Films, Don B., John M., Chevelle, Mike B., Do As Diz Den, Sam P., Justin G., Sin Fritz, Dave M., and Sam Cybercat.
Thank you, everybody, for being huge supporters of the BumbleKast and for sticking with us. Good to see some new names in there, and of course, some old friends. Thanks for sticking around, and we hope that your dollar is worth it. That you're getting what you want out of your dollar, or multiple dollars even. Thank you.
Kyle, where can they find you once the show is done?
You can head on over to Twitter, and you can find me at KyleJCRB. You can also go listen to my other show, Nitro Game Injection, which streams live on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over at kngi.org. You can find archived episodes of the BumbleKast over at kngi.org in MP3 downloadable format for your listening pleasure. Got the podcast feed and everything over there, so if you want the audio-only version of this to listen to on any device, be sure to go check that out. And listen to my other show, which streams live on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over there, and you can find that streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and kngi.org. You can also tune in 24/7 to a video game music live stream that's constantly going on over at kngi.org, and who knows, maybe if you're listening on Wednesdays, you might hear a rerun of the BumbleKast, because you gotta have content. Gotta fill out the schedule, Ian. So, hey, you get to hear an older episode of the BumbleKast if you're tuned in over there. Check it out, and a whole bunch of other shows, too. Where can people find you, Ian?
Find me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC. Find my full resume and release schedule on BumbleKing.com. And read my original webcomic that's at Drogoon.com. That's Drogune. As a heads up, Adam and I are having to go on a brief hiatus to work on another related project with an extremely tight deadline, and there was just no way to maintain it and the regular pages. So instead of the regular pages, you're going to be getting lore pages, which is just nice, big, juicy info dumps on all the extra stuff that is around Drogoon. Those will be replacing the regular updates for the next few months. And then once the other project is squared away and Adam gets back to the regular pages, those lower pages will become a patron incentive where they will get to see it a month before everybody else. So you get your little teaser here for next few months, get to learn you some Drogoon lore, and then you'll be able to still find it on the website just after the patrons have had their fun with it.
Excellent. Don't forget to also check out the show on Twitter at BumbleKast, where you can ask your Q&A questions or email us at bumblecast@yahoo.com. And of course, you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and over at kngi.org.
Help support us by heading over to the Bumble store. That's shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble store, where we have a variety of items with a variety of BumbleKast themed images that you can place on them.
And don't forget to also check out the BumbleKast Gaming live streams happening on Twitch Wednesdays and Fridays at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time and Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern. Keep an eye on Twitter for announcements, because sometimes we got to cancel or whatever. So, keep an eye out and join us in there. Who knows? Maybe sometimes during the daylight hours, I might do some streaming. At least daylight hours for local to me. I might do some streaming because, I've got a lot of time in the middle of the day lately. So, and I have some things to do. So I could do some streaming. I don't have some things to do, so I could do some streaming. That's what I meant to say. It's like I don't have anything to do in the middle of the day, so hey, maybe I'll wake up at noon or afternoon and do some streaming. We'll see. Do some console game streaming. So, yeah. Be sure to go check those out and keep an eye out for any sort of announcements and bonus streams or whatever. So
that's going to wrap us up for this week's BumbleKast. We'll see you next week with more Q&A. Until then, be safe, be well.
See you later. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, God. Oh, man. Who tunes in for pre-question content?
Nobody, but by God, it's going to be there.
I mean, they should, because, they should. But they don't. Curse you, people. Actually, a lot of people did listen to it. It's just, they didn't really talk about it. They just wanted to ask more questions, which, I mean, I get it.
That's the gimmick of the show, so.
Yeah. I want Sonic Team Racing. I want, Yuji Naka to make a comeback, and you play as Yuji Naka. And I want Itsuka, and you can play as them. Yeah, I want Sonic Team Racing. Sounds great. I just want to play as Sonic Team. Sounds awesome. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
Scruffy, what are you talking about? Transfer your question?
Transfer answer question again. Oh, because he was asleep when we...
Oh, you don't want to wait for... I closed the show notes. Hold on.
It's the one about Space Colony Arc and Professor Gerald's revenge plan.
Short version, there's no continuity. Yes, Sonic blew up the cannon. Yes, the Emeralds activated the drop place on planet plan.
And the moon in Shadow the Hedgehog is the back of the moon because why not? I don't know.
Alrighty, gang.
Does wait a minute? Hold on. Wait, I thought the same. Hold on. Is this different in Sonic's world? I assumed that the same face of the moon usually faces the planet, faces the world, faces the Earth, and that it doesn't really.
Well, they have to both take place on the human world because there's humans in it. But at the same time, in Sonic Team Racing, which presumably takes place on Sonic's world, they get onto Donpa's rocket, and you clearly see the normal Earth as it flies off into space. So there is no quality control. There is no continuity. Everything is canon. Just smile and nod.
Everything is fine. Nothing is ruined.